Hello everybody and welcome to the very first lesson for learning Adobe After Effects. In this first lesson we will be starting off extremely basic just to get you guys comfortable and familiarized with the actual program. So we will be making this very simple intro, welcome to After Effects, and then in part 2 we will start adding some keyframes to fade it in, and we will work with our first effect where we will add a nice glow to our little thumbs up icon here. So a quick tour around the program. In the center here we have our workspace environment. You can zoom in and out with your mouse wheel, or you can hold down your middle mouse and move it around. So if you're working with elements that are coming in from the top here, you can zoom out and move it. On the side here is our bin panel, our project panel. This is where you'll be adding all of your assets, so all of your music and your videos and your text and everything you'll be working with that cannot be made within the program will be dragged into this panel here. Here down at the bottom is our timeline, which you can as well drag up and down depending on how many elements there are to it. You can as well, if you would like a bigger workspace, then you can just roll your mouse up and down to get through them. On the side here are our palettes, so we have our info, which we can see our X and Y coordinates and our RGB. Here is our fix panel and presets and our characters for when we're working with text. Okay, so guys, once you've opened up your Adobe After Effects, you should see a screen like this. As you can see, we are set to the standard workspace. You can, however, choose one of the presets here, or you can create your own workspace. I suggest just keeping with the standard for now, as it has everything that we're going to be using. If you do find yourself using one of the other tabs quite often, like let's say you're using the tracker, you'll just come down here to Window, select Tracker, you'll come down here, say New Workspace, and you'll just name it, let's say Tracker Workspace. So next time you open your Adobe After Effects up, your tracker workspace will open up with your tracker bar, or with your tracker options here. Okay. One more thing, if you guys are playing around with your layout and you're moving things around and you've just made a big mess and you don't know what's going on anymore, that's very easy to fix. You just come down here to Window, Workspace, Reset Standard, yes, and that will just reset everything to default. So if you guys accidentally lose a window and you don't know what's happening, that's how you solve it. Okay, so we're going to start off with our composition. We'll come down here to composition, select new composition. We will name it intro. For our width and height, we're going to leave it at 1080p with lock aspect ratio ticked, so our screen size will be 16:9. If you change the bottom value with lock aspect ratio ticked, it will automatically change the top. So if we want 720, the top will be changed. If you want to add your own values, obviously just untick this, add your own values for your own screen size, and easy as that. So we're just going to leave it as 1080p, a frame rate of 30. Now guys, for the duration, it's set to 50 seconds. Even though our intro will only be around 10 seconds, it's better to add an extra 30 seconds to a minute, depending on how long your comp is, just so you have some extra working space. And as well, it's better to have too much space and then just trim out what you don't need at the end, or just tell it not to render the end than to run out of space. Of course, you can always open up your composition settings and add some duration to it at any time, but this is better practice and it gives you more space to work. So we'll leave it at 50 seconds and we'll say okay. So now we want to add in our gradient background using a solid object. So we'll come here down to layer and we'll say new solid. Okay, we can just call it back and we'll leave it the same width and height as our composition, and we'll leave it at this dark purple. We'll say okay. So now we have this big rectangle, this big purple rectangle, which we want to change into an ellipse. So we'll come down here. Yours will still be rectangle tool. You'll just click and hold your mouse over it and release on the ellipse tool. Come to the top left and then just click and drag until it takes up the entire of the screen. Okay. Then you'll just go back to your selection tool and you'll just click away. So now we have our very ugly oval that we're going to now feather it up. So going to add a nice transition, a nice gradient. So if you just see your back without any of the options or values below, you can just drop them down by this triangle here. And you can just drop down your mask 1, which is your actual oval. Drop down your mask, and here at the mask feather, you can click and add your own value. So we'll add 250, as well as you can just click with your mouse and drag your mouse left and right. So let's maybe add 350. Alright, and an opacity of 80. Okay, that looks good. So we don't want to see these options anymore, so we can just collapse them with the little triangle again. And now we're going to add in our welcome text. So we can either just add it straight from here, or we can go to layer, new text, type in welcome, go to our selection tool. If this does happen, just tap your caps lock button to refresh, and then you can resize it and position it to wherever you would like. So I'm going to leave it here. Here you can also change your text size. So if you need a very specific text size, let's say you need a 28, you can just type in 28. Or if you need to do your vertical scale, your horizontal scale, your character spacing is all here. So depending on your text type, you might want to play around with some of these settings. You can make it italic. Make sure you have it selected. You can make it italic, make it 28 size, and just going to more or less put it into the center. Alright, so as you can see, our back is taking up the full 50 seconds, which is fine because it's our background and there's nothing after the background. But our text now is also a full 50 seconds long, and all elements such as text and solids work like this. So you're going to have to trim them down to how long you want them to be there for. So there's really 3 ways to do this. We can either just drag the corners, drag each corner down. So now we've made it roughly 5 seconds long. Now that's not the best way to do it. The best way to do it is to, first of all, we want to only work in the first maybe 10 to 15 seconds. We only want to work in this area. We don't want to worry about all of this over here, okay? So we'll just come here to our time navigator end. We'll click on it and we'll drag it to the left. And we'll stop it where we can just see the first 12 seconds. Okay, so all of this here at the end, we're not going to worry about that. That's just extra space now. So now we wanted to start, we want our welcome text to pitch up at 1 second. So we'll move our time indicator to 1 second. We'll click and we'll press Control, Shift and D to cut the layer. You can also go to layer, sorry, you can go to edit and then split layer, which is Control Shift D, or you can duplicate the layer with Control D. So I suggest getting used to the shortcut keys, which is way faster. Control Shift D, delete the beginning, and we'll make it stay here for 5 seconds. So at the 6-second mark, you'll Control Shift D again and delete the end. So now when we run through, you can see our welcome text isn't there. At 1 second it comes up, and then at 6 seconds it goes away. Alright, so now we want to add in another text. So we'll click our welcome text, press Control D to duplicate. We'll move our time indicator to 2 seconds. Now to make sure that we are moving this to exactly 2 seconds, we can hold down Shift, and you can see there how it snaps to the line of our time indicator. So that's how you can be a little bit more precise. You can also zoom in way more, and you can see there it's exactly at 2 seconds, which is what we want. Okay, so we'll zoom back out to the 12 seconds. So now that we've duplicated it, you can see we don't have to worry about the end because it ends exactly the same time as the welcome text. So now you just click on it. It has overlapped the previous welcome, so you'll just drag it down and you'll type in 2. Let's make it all caps, and we will refresh, just center it again under the welcome. We'll come to 3 seconds, do the same thing, Control D to duplicate, hold down Shift to snap it to your time indicator, move it down, and type in After Effects. Alright, and we can just center it again. Okay, so now if we play through, we can see welcome to After Effects. Now all that's left is our little thumbs up. So to get our thumbs up, we will just come down here to where it is, and we'll just click and drag it into our project, into our bin panel. Okay, then from here you'll just drag it straight into your timeline. So as you can see, it's taken the full 50 seconds, and this is why I say cutting it is a lot more proficient than dragging the two ends. For instance, if we wanted to drag the two ends from 4 seconds to 6 seconds, we would have to drag, zoom all the way out, drag the end to where we want it to end, and then zoom all the way back in again, which just takes more time. Honestly, it is much easier just to Control Shift D, delete the beginning, go to where you want it to end, Control Shift D, and then delete the end. So we want it to end at the same time of our text, so make sure this is at the edge of your text, and hold down Shift to snap it. Okay, we also want to start at 4 seconds, so we'll hold down Shift and we'll let it start at 4 seconds. Now to resize things and to keep the ratio, you're going to, with your selection tool, you can see that if we resize it just with the mouse, we're not going to keep that perfect circle shape. So to solve that, you just again hold down Shift and it will keep a perfect circle. Don't hold down Shift and then click, it won't work. You first need to have clicked on one of the corners and then hold down Shift. Okay, so we'll just leave it right there. So now we have our welcome to After Effects, thumbs up. Okay, so now our entire video is only 6 seconds long, but if we have to play it back, which we do here under the preview panel. So right at the end here you have something called RAM preview. If you click on that, it will play through your composition. So that looks good, but now it's still running and it's going to run the entire 50 seconds, which obviously we don't want, because we don't need to worry about all of this. So here is your work area end, this bar right here. So if we wanted it to be 45 seconds, we would stop it here at 45 seconds and so on. So we wanted to stop right here at the 6-second mark. Okay, and we wanted to begin at maybe half a second. So now all it's going to render is this portion here. It's also great to use this if you have a long project and you want to see what a specific area looks like. So let's say we only want to see what 3 seconds, from 3 seconds to 5 seconds. We only want to see this portion here. So we'll just drag our start and end to those spots. We'll run our preview, and as you can see, it's just going to play back that one area that we told it. So we can move this back to the beginning, this to our 6-second mark, and now we're ready to compile it and make it its own video. So to do that, you'll come to composition and you'll click here, add to render queue. Okay, we'll click here to our output 2. So we'll just let it output to our desktop as intro. The lossless settings, you'll click here. Always go for H.264. That's what I suggest. So we'll click H.264 and make sure to always click your audio output. I know that there is an audio in this video, but most of your projects probably will have audio, and it isn't by default checked, so just make sure to check your audio output. And then just click OK, and then you can just render it. Shouldn't take any time at all. Once it's done, you'll hear that nice ding sound, and here is our intro. Alright, I think it takes a little bit too long for the words to come in, so maybe we can go to about 1.5 seconds, and then at 2 seconds, so every half a second instead of every 1 second. And then we can hold down Control to select all of the elements, and we can click and drag, and we'll just snap it all back to 6 seconds, so it ends all at 6 seconds. So it should come in a little bit faster now. Great. Alright guys, so that's the very basics. In the next one we will be adding some fade in effects with some keyframes, and we will add a nice glow effect, also using some keyframes for our intro here. See you in part 2.